Hey everybody.
Hello.
It's Lance and Leslie, and we're just going to give you some information about the American Bulldogs. We've been breeding American Bulldogs since 1998 when we got our first American Bulldog from Mr. John D. Johnson. And Lance, you tell them how we ended up at Mr. Johnson's farm.
Well, after doing our research on American Bulldogs for probably the best part of a year, and we started to build a website called American Bulldog Resources, which at the time was the only place you could really find breeds of American Bulldogs. We got familiar with a few breeders in the South, in particular Dixie Luckman, who is still out there breeding John D. Johnson's bloodlines and Bulldogs, and Cheryl Devine of Something Special American Bulldogs. And John D. Johnson was breeding Bulldogs, and at the time there was a lot of rumors about, well, if you wanted a Bulldog from Mr. Johnson, the waiting list was years long. Not only was it years long, if he didn't like you, you wouldn't get a Bulldog no matter how long you waited or how much money you gave him. And his dogs were several $1,000s, and we're going back some 25 years now. In any case, we decided that we absolutely had to have an American Bulldog, and the only place we were going to get one was down south, so we took a few days off and drove down to Carterville, Georgia, first of all.
Oh, hang on for 1 sec. You better tell them where we live.
Oh, we live up in Canada. At the time, we lived in Ontario. So it was about a 14-hour drive down to Cartersville, Georgia, over to Detroit, and all the way down I-75.
And let me just back you up one more time and ask you when you saw your first American Bulldog.
Probably 6 months to a year before we made our trip down south.
And what Bulldog did you see?
Bulldog's name was Kino. It was out of, I think it was out of a Kennedy dog.
It was MD Keno.
Yeah.
And it came from Mark Ross.
That's
and
right.
Mark
I forgot
Ross
about
lived in
Mark.
Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah, so
And-
Mark was another breeder that we
Yeah.
actually met on our first trip down.
So there was a breeder in Ontario named Laura, remember?
Yeah.
She left the American Bulldogs soon after that, and she started breeding poodles. But she bred her dog. Oh, she had
Red.
Kennedy's, Killar Red, and she bred it to Keno. And that was the litter of puppies that she had when we went over to see her. And before we went to see her, I had gone to the dog show at the International Center in Mississauga, and I saw Keno for the first time.
Yeah, to back this up a bit, as a child, my family bred Dalmatians. And when Leslie and I were first married, we had Dalmatians because those are the dogs I was used to and liked and always had. We had a couple of Dalmatians, and when our Dalmatian male died, it was really, I'm going to say, the best Dalmatian I ever had at the time, and we were heartbroken. When we were heartbroken, we didn't feel we could get another one as good. And so we didn't get a dog right away. As any of you people know that have grown up with dogs and have dogs, it's hard to live without a dog.
It sure is.
And so we started going to dog shows, and Leslie started going to dog shows as well. And one day, unbeknownst to me, she went on her own to a dog show and called me at work and said, "You've got to leave work now and come here and see this dog." And I'm like, "I can't leave now." And he said, "You're going to love this dog. You got to come right now." Anyway, a couple of days later, we went to visit Laura and met MD Keno. It's like, oh my God, I've got to have one of these dogs.
That was in St. Thomas, Ontario.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I got to have one of these dogs. And that started our pursuit and research of American Bulldogs.
Yeah, you put that favorites list together, remember?
Yeah.
You just started
Which became the
favoriting the
website.
kennels, yeah.
On our first trip down, I think our first stop was at Cheryl Devine's house. So we met Cheryl and Something Special's Cracker and all the other dogs. Cracker was a stunning dog at the time, a real great specimen of the breed. And we met Mark Ross, who bred MD Keno. His kennel was MD Kenels in Stone Mountain, Georgia. We had planned the trip over to John D. Johnson. I think we met her on the Saturday. On the Sunday, we went over to John D. Johnson's house. He was still active in breeding at the time.
And
We were like,
Mildred,
oh my God.
we met Mildred.
Yeah, and we're like, oh my God, we're going to John D. Johnson. So we got to his house. Dixie was there helping him clean and look after the dogs. Paul Ciancio was there that same day, so we had Paul Ciancio on that trip. He's also been involved in the breed longer than we have, probably 30 plus years, and well into the Johnson American Bulldogs is his thing. He still has the Johnson photo gallery.
The photo gallery, huge.
He still has that online. I think he still adds dogs to it. We met Mildred, John D. Johnson's wife. She was lovely.
Paul's running the John D. Johnson registry now.
Okay. And
with Dixie.
Yeah. They are still very involved in the breed. We met John D. Johnson, and he toured us around his yard, showed us all the different dogs. We were totally in awe. We'd never seen so many American Bulldogs. We never really seen any more than one at a time. Other than at Cheryl's house.
Tell them about the connection with Gideon, because that was Blue's dad.
Yeah, we were walking around talking with Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson was a very religious man, and the dog that just had a litter, his stud, was called Gideon. I think it was Gideon 25?
Oh, I don't
28,
remember.
maybe?
Oh.
He always used numbers to name his dogs.
Rebel Rouser
28, Gideon.
Yeah.
So we'd use the Rebel Rouser line, and everyone would be...
And Millie was the mom
27,
of
28,
Blue.
Yeah. And Millie was the mom of this litter that was there on the ground. So, we... Like I said, we'd heard about these long waiting lists. You'd never get one.
Hang on a
They didn't
sec,
like
though.
you.
You're totally forgetting the part of why I think that there was such a connection made. Because your middle name is Gideon.
Yes, and he likened that to his biblical stories of Gideon.
Yes.
Which I'm not familiar with at all, to be quite honest, but it made an impression on Mr. Johnson. And he shows us this litter, and we're like, wow, these puppies are so cute. It would be so great to have one of these. We'll never get one of these dogs. And we're talking with him about the dogs and how we'd like to have one day, and so on and so forth. And he's like, well, this puppy's available, and that happened to be Blue, Rebel Rouser 28, the dog that
No, 52.
52, sorry. The dog we ended up bringing home after that weekend. But listen, I spent a few hours there with him and with his wife, Mildred, and with Dixie, Luckman, and Paul. And we drove away that afternoon, and we got maybe 10 minutes down the road, and I'm like, I look over to Leslie, and I'm like, you said that puppy was available? And Leslie's like, yes.
And there was another family going there, remember?
Yeah.
So we had this
And we're like,
huge urgency.
Yeah, and we're like, hang on a minute. He said we could have that dog if we wanted it. Hey, do you think that's what he said? And we're like, I think that's what he said. So we pulled a U-turn, drove right back to his house 10 minutes later. I said, Mr. Johnson, I know you have a long wait list, but did you say we could have that dog if we wanted it? And he was like, yeah, you can have that dog if you want it. So history was made. We left him a deposit. We didn't have enough money at the time. He wanted $2,500 US dollars for that dog, which to us 25 years ago was still 4,000 Canadian dollars pretty much. We can't afford it right now. Can we leave you a deposit and come back and get him in a few weeks? He was totally okay with that. And there was a dog show in Alabama in a few weeks. I think it was the first start of Dixie Dog Show.
Yeah, and it was the first was it the first ABNA show? It was ABNA sanctioned.
It might have been the first ABNA show, and it was definitely the first start of Dixie. It was in Birmingham, Alabama.
What about Al Joy's big show that he used to have, though?
That was in Virginia. That was ABNA as well, but that was after I heard of Dixie.
Was it?
He may have had some before that, possibly, but they weren't ABNA because he started the ABNA.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, we drove back a few weeks later to pick up our dog, Rebel Rouser 52.
Remember what a lump he was?
He was 42 pounds, I think, at 16 weeks old.
17
weeks old and 42 pounds. And he'd never been off grass, Mr. Johnson's yard. We picked him up, and we took him. We were driving to Alabama. We got him to the hotel.
And he was really stinky.
Yeah, he was stinky. He had a good bath. We got him in the bathtub. He just sat there with the water rising up around him. Like, if we kept going, he would have just drowned. We gave him a good wash, and we had a good time. We had some other people down there. I think we met Jose Lopez.
We met Jose. We met Tanya.
We met Darren. We met Darren in Ohio at that show.
We met Darren.
Darren
was there.
Humphreys at that show.
And Tugnuts were there.
Yeah, we met Greg and what was his partner's name? I
Bill.
don't remember. Greg and Bill from Tugnut.
Yeah.
American Bulldogs. I met a lot of the people that weekend.
Oh, the big Blackwell was there.
Yeah.
Jose Lopez was apprenticing.
Right.
Under Blackwell.
Yeah.
The Karaseks were there.
Yeah, Greg and Tammy Karasek.
Yeah.
Met a lot of people in the breed. Was Jeff Daly there that weekend? I'm not sure we met Jeff that.
I don't remember meeting Jeff that weekend.
But the next day we went to the show. Blue was such a lump and had never been off grass and off Johnny Johnson's yard. He did not want to walk on the concrete.
He would not walk.
He would not walk. I started to try and drag him. I felt horrible dragging him, so here I was carrying this 42-pound lump around the show ring, meeting people, and going all around the premises carrying this stupid big dog.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. We had the greatest time.
Yeah, it was love at first sight. We loved our dog. We were so thrilled to get a dog from Mr. Johnson. We never thought that would happen in a million years, especially to get one so quickly.
And that started it all.
Yeah, that led to 25 years now of breeding American Bulldogs. Now I've got this lump sleeping here with me.
Yeah.
He's a special dog for sure.
Well, this video is now 9.5 minutes long, so let's cut it off here and make a plan to tell them the next part of our adventure in the American Bulldog world.
All right, let's do that. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.